Uses of sulfuric acid in agriculture.
What is acid? Before I explain a real definition of acid, here is some properties of the acid. First, acid have a sour taste and it can change the color of litmus paper from blue to red. And acid can react with a electropositive metal to form hydrogen gas. And it also react with a bases to form salt and water. And lastly, it can react with a carbonate or bicarbonate to liberate carbon dioxide gas. So there are three main definitions of acid, which is Lewis, Bronsted-Lowry, and Arrhenius. For Lewis' definition, it says that acid accepts a lone pair of electrons from the base, and it called as an electron acceptor. Meanwhile, Bronsted-Lowry said acid is a chemical substance which donates proton to another substance. And for Arrhenius, he said that acids are substances that ionize in an aqueous solution to form hydrogen ion. So for this topic, we are choosing sulfuric acid. So what is sulfuric acid? Sulfuric acid is a strong acid and it can fully dissociate in water, and it is an exothermic reaction when it was diluted in water. Now I will explain the usage of sulfuric acid in fertilizer. Fertilizer is a natural or chemical substance that is spread on the land or given to the plant, and it is make plants grow well, and it may restore chemical components removed from the soil by previous crops or boost the soil inherent fertility. Sulfuric acid is used as a dehydrating agent to alter the pH level of the soil, and it can produce hydrogen chloride. So this hydrogen chloride will mix with the water to form hydrochloric acid, and it will mix with another chemical ingredient to make the fertilizer to acid level plant. Next, sulfuric acid can be used as a modern farming method to increase the crop yields, as it can produce nitrogen, so it can generate more revenue and produce highly nutritious crops.
Next is the importance of sulfuric acid. So, how is sulfuric acid is being used in agriculture? Sulfuric acid is being used in agriculture to produce many types of fertilizers, such as phosphate fertilizers and also nitrogen fertilizers. These are the uses of sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid specifically used in manufacture phosphate fertilizers such as superphosphate lime and ammonium sulfate. Sulfuric acid may be used in fertilizers as a dehydrating agent or to change the pH or as known as degree of soil acidity. Next, sulfuric acid is needed in producing fertilizers due to production of nitrogen fertilizers. Nitrogen fertilizers increase the crop yields, and it is essential for farmers to generate more revenue through producing crops. High nutrition content of crops can also be produced. So, this is the simplified diagram of production of sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid can be produced from sulfur, oxygen, and water via the contact process. Next, we are going to see more detail about production of sulfuric acid. Production of sulfuric acid concludes about four reactions. First reaction is sulfur is burned to produce sulfur dioxide. As you can see here, sulfur is going to burn in the presence of oxygen to produce sulfur dioxide. Next step is sulfur dioxides are going to be oxidized using oxygen to produce sulfur trioxide. In this reaction, vanadium 5 oxide will be used as catalyst at 450 Celsius. And the next reaction is the addition of sulfur trioxide to sulfuric acid. Sulfur trioxide are going to be added with sulfuric acid to produce oleum. Usually, 97 to 98% of sulfuric acid, which is containing around 2 to 3% of water, to produce 98 to 99% of sulfuric acid. Mist are usually formed instead of liquid due to the directly dissolving of sulfur trioxide in the water due to exothermic reaction. And the next are oleum are going to be reacted with water to form concentrated sulfuric acid. And this is how you can get a sulfuric acid. And the next is phosphate fertilizers. Sulfuric acid will be used in the making of phosphate fertilizers. Phosphate fertilizers can be produced by using a wet process. Sulfuric acid will be added with rock phosphate to produce single superphosphate, or as known as SSP, which is as a fertilizer. So, how can sulfuric acid can be used in making single superphosphate? Single superphosphate SSP can be made by adding rock phosphate into a concentrated sulfuric acid. Below are the general chemical equation. Rock phosphate, which is calcium phosphate, will be added with concentrated sulfuric acid and will be producing monocalcium phosphate, superphosphate, and gypsum.
Sulfuric acid is used to manufacture phosphate fertilizers such as ammonium sulfate. It increases crop yield that help farmers to generate more revenue by producing highly nutritional crops. This product of sulfuric acid phosphate fertilizer can make fertile land. It can help farmers by making more land for them to grow crops. More soil nutrients are available for farmers to use. The farmer are able to use more land for farming efficiently instead of planting small spots. Besides, the plant growth can be improved to protect the soil. More different plants can grow and the biodiversity can be increased. Even though this chemical is very helpful to farmers and is good for crop production, overusing chemical fertilizer can cause a lot of pollution. Besides, plants or crops do not absorb the fertilizer 100%. They only absorb a portion of fertilizer, leaving some remaining in the soil. When the fertilizer goes into the water, microorganisms can grow like algae. This can cause eutrophication because the algae grows faster on the fertilizer washed into the sea. This can cause the algae to take up a lot of oxygen from the water. This can cause lack of oxygen in the water for the fish, suffocating the fish that lives in the area. The ecosystem will be disturbed due to large number of death of aquatic organisms. The precaution steps while handling sulfuric acid as a fertilizer is to keep it only in the original packaging, use only outdoors or in a well-ventilated area, wear respiratory protections, wash hands and face thoroughly after handling, wear protective gloves, clothing, eye and face protection, obtain special instructions before use, and do not handle until all safety precautions has been read and understood. Store the acid or fertilizer in the corrosion-resistant container and in a well-ventilated place. Keep container tightly closed and the store are locked up. Dispose contents and containers in accordance with local, regional, national, or international regulations.
Next is calculation of acid sulfate. This is an example of how to determine the right pH to make a good fertilizer. Sulfuric acid can be produced from addition oleum and water. 0.5 mole of oleum were added to water. What is the pH of 100 ml of sulfuric acid is produced? Given chemical equation H2SO7 react with H2O to produce 2H2SO4. To find pH of sulfuric acid, the first one we need to calculate the mole of sulfuric acid. If 1 mole H2SO7 is equal to 2 mole of sulfuric acid, that means oleum will have 0.5 mole and sulfuric acid will have 1 mole. After we get 1 mole of sulfuric acid, we can calculate the molarity of sulfuric acid. To calculate the molarity, we need to divide number of mole of sulfuric acid with volume, and we get 10 molarity. After that, we need to find the pH of the sulfuric acid. By using formula Ka is equal to Kw over Kv, and we got the answer is 100. To find pH, we need to use equation pH equal to negative log H plus, and the answer we get is 2. In conclusion, sulfuric acid is acidic acid. If sulfuric acid is react with rock phosphate, it will produce fertilizer, and the fertilizer become acidic. If the fertilizer was combined with the soil, it can reduce the pH soil and can increase the availability of nutrient in plant. What will happen if we add too much of sulfuric acid in the fertilizer? The acidity of fertilizer will increase. That can decrease the availability of some nutrient for the plants and increase the effect of toxic element, and the plant product will decrease and water use. Pollution was made from acid sulfuric. The first one is air pollution. Acid rain will happen when fossil fuel like coal and oil are burned, and it will release sulfur dioxide in the air, and after sulfur dioxide is contact with the water droplets in the atmosphere, it will form sulfuric acid. This is how the acid rain is formed. The second one is water pollution. This can happen when humans use fertilizer and chemical to fertilize plants. The fertilizer's ingredient can infiltrate river and sea and damage the water. The factories that make these fertilizers can also contribute the water pollution by discharging trash into river or the sea, which will kill aquatic life and make the water dirty.
To To wrap things up, sulfuric acid is used as a raw material in production of phosphoric acid. Globally, agriculture is the major source of livelihood across the globe, and farmers use fertilizer with three main nutrients to enhance the quality and yield of crops, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Fertilizer replaces the nutrients that crops remove from the soil. Consequently, without it, crops yield and agricultural productivity would be significantly reduced.